Welcome back to the Branded Podcast, where we encourage you to stir up faith. And today we have the most special guest that we've ever had in studio. And that is
good call, Tristan. Good call.
I like that one. So yeah, it's my wife Becky. So I'm gonna let Justin do most of the interview and ask the hard questions so that I don't get in trouble.
Yet another smart move, Tristan.
Smart move.
Yeah.
Okay. So go ahead, Justin.
All right. Well, we're here with the Branded Podcast, whereas our theme is to stir up faith and talk about, our journey to the cross. So let's start off, Becky, with, where did you grow up? What kind of home life did you have? Was it a spiritual home? Tell us about your childhood.
I grew up in Lake Chelan.
Not in the lake, next to it. Just so you know.
In Washington State.
Next to the lake, Chelan.
Okay.
Yeah, next to the lake. Wonderful place to grow up. Grew up on an apple orchard. Mm-hmm. And I actually come from a real broken family. Mm-hmm. My parents divorced when I was little.
Like 2 years old?
Yeah, I think I was 2 years old when my mom left. So I didn't even really have a mom. My dad got us, all the kids.
Okay.
So... yeah, came from a real broken home. He, I think at one point, was agnostic or atheist. I don't know if I can say atheist. Maybe.
Well, you can. You're free to do that.
But the Lord got a hold of him. So by the time I was a little older, my family was going to church, which was nice.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
I can relate. Growing up, I never mentioned this on mine, but my parents divorced when I was 11, and my father was agnostic. And it wasn't until very close to the end of his life that he started checking into and got spiritual at all. So I can relate to that. So
I don't mean to put you on the spot.
Okay.
Oh, yes, I do.
Yes, you do.
Can you describe the difference between the agnostic and the atheist, what we're looking at?
My understanding would be atheist is you believe in nothing. There is no God. There is no higher power. You just believe in, your own destiny. There's nothing above us.
Okay.
Agnostic would be that you believe there's a higher power, but you don't necessarily believe in organized religion. You think that was created by man more so, and you just know that there is something, but you don't know what it is, and you don't practice any sort of religion.
Yeah, so. That's great. When it comes down to this surety thing, atheist is sure. They know. Mm-hmm. And an agnostic is, they think they know, but they're not real sure. So that's one of the big differentiations. I don't know how to say the word, but you know what I mean. Yeah. So continue on. You were a farmer girl. I like farmer girls.
Yeah, grew up on the orchard.
Apparently.
Yeah.
Grew up right there on the lake, so yeah.
What was it like to go from, a family that was broken and a father who didn't know exactly what to believe to a Christian type lifestyle? Was that a big change for you, or did you like that?
Well, I don't really remember. I don't really remember even not knowing I had a mom or whatever. Yeah, I don't remember that part of it because I was so young.
Yeah, and in fact, you accepted Jesus. Tell about how that came about.
Yeah, when did you accept the Lord?
So my oldest sister, she's 10 years older than me.
How many siblings do you have?
So I have 5 brothers and 2 sisters.
Oh, big family.
I have one sister also that died of cancer when I was about 2, I think. Well, no, we decided it was about 4, right?
About 4, because your mom had already...
Yeah, it was 4. My mom was already gone.
She already left.
She left. So I remember when they told me that she died. But, yeah, so anyway, my sister had gone to a child evangelism fellowship.
That's your older sister.
My older sister,
Jody.
That's 10 years older than me. And she came back and she was...
She watches. Go ahead.
She wanted to... she took me and my friend that lived right up the road. We always played together.
Yeah.
So when she came home from it, my friend was over. So she decided she'd try out some of the things they told her, and she said, "Let's go hiking."
So you were kind of the salvation guinea pig.
Yeah. So then she, told me about the Lord and if I wanted to accept him into my heart, and I did. And I was changed.
Oh, and how old were
Yeah.
you this time?
I was 8.
8. Okay. Awesome.
Yeah. So
Awesome.
I don't know how much longer after that I did get baptized in the church, but I remember going to church and going to vacation Bible school and stuff like that.
Okay. What kind of church was it again?
So I think it was a community church.
Yeah.
When I was younger, it was Assembly of God church that we went to as a family, but I was so young at that point, I don't really remember that part.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, so the one I remember was that community type church.
Is that the Little
Stone Church?
Little Stone Church in
Okay.
Lake Chelan, Washington.
Yeah.
All right. Well, any hiccups or any rebellious years there as you got into the high school and adulthood? Any type of thing like that? Some folks do, some folks don't. So
We should really just zoom the camera in on it right now. Just
Well, I wasn't perfect.
well, nobody is, but
Yeah, I really wanted to follow the Lord. I remember my mom said that I said when I was younger, I said, well, if I'm going to be a Christian, I'm going to be a real one.
well, that's a good foundation.
there you go.
That's what I wanted to do. But, so that was kind of how it started for me.
So at what age did you meet our wonderful host here? Tristan, was that the college age time frame or?
Yeah, it was my first year of college. So my college had a Bible study going on campus. So I was going to that Bible study, and he didn't go to the college, but he went to the church that sponsored that. Mm-hmm. So they had put on a retreat, and me and my friend Brenda both went to that. I met Brenda at college. She was my best friend there. So we decided to go to that retreat.
Yeah, what they call that one? I remember it a place to go meet college girls. I think that was on their brochure.
I started to say, let's ask the tough questions, Tristan. Did you go to the Bible study for the Bible study or for the farm girls who went to college?
Yeah, I was looking. Yeah, I was. Hey, she's the focus.
Oh yeah, correct. Okay.
So
actually, I didn't. I was engaged.
Oh, okay.
At the time, but the Lord was dealing with my heart, and at this point, I knew that I needed to break up with this guy.
So you already knew this was ending.
Yes.
And then Tristan walks into the picture as that's ending is what, okay.
Yeah, I kind of went to that retreat, and I really wanted to, seek the Lord. The Lord already told me, that I should break up with the guy. And so we went... to the retreat.
God is so faithful. You went to this retreat, and he showed you the reason why you needed to break up with this other guy, right?
Well, I wasn't looking for any other guy.
No, but when we met, I was 20. You were
19.
No, you were 18.
Oh, maybe I was 18.
You were 18.
Oh, we got married when I was 19.
19, yes. I married a teenager. So
18. We were pretty young.
Yeah, we were young, but we stayed up the day we met. We stayed up till 5 a.m. talking. Mm-hmm. But I'm not sure if that's how it went, because Becky is a listener and I'm a talker.
Oh, so you probably were.
She could have been asleep the whole time.
Well, with her eyes open, she was gracious enough to keep her eyes open. But yeah, we did. We talked about all kinds of things, and we.
That's kind of how it goes when you find that person that, you can't stop talking to each other, no matter what it's about. You want to know.
Yeah, and I'm a little surprised that she brought up the subject, because this is a story I get in trouble for telling.
Surely not. Tristan.
No. I
remember telling him, "Don't get any ideas, because I'm married." Or not married.
Engaged.
Engaged.
Because
I didn't want him to think.
That's more of the story than I knew. Whoa.
You heard it here first. No, just kidding.
Yeah. So.
But me and Brenda were real into music, and I played piano. So we were. That's how we kind of met him, because he kind of.
Tristan's a musical guy.
I like music.
He's real music. So we were always over there.
Yeah.
We were over there playing. I was playing piano, and we were singing and stuff. So that's kind of how.
Mm-hmm. And her fiance played guitar.
Yeah, we don't need to talk anymore about that part of it.
That's enough. You're going to get in trouble again, Tristan.
Eventually, she was no longer engaged, and
the Lord told her that was not the one. and
Yeah,
then brought
yeah.
the right one into the picture.
Yeah.
All right, where'd we go from there? How long did y'all date and do all that kind of stuff before you decided this is it? I know this is it.
I think it was about a year from the time that we met that we were married.
Yeah.
Because she had had 75 or 100 different boyfriends at the time. And I didn't
Tristan
do
would
it.
never exaggerate at all.
I mean, I might have had 30 or 40 girlfriends, but I think one of the things that helped us is we weren't prioritizing relationship. We prioritize a relationship with God, and oh yeah, she kept diaries.
Oh, I did.
Yes, she did.
Oh my.
Oh, and she wouldn't let me read them at the time she was writing them, but after a few years go by, and she let me read them. So she kept. There's 3 in particular that I'm really. It was fun to see her
Reaction
journey.
to you.
Yeah. But see, she had a diary for the year that we met and what she was going through, and the fellow that wanted to marry her, and I came in and stuff, and he was riding a donkey and I had a white stallion,
Tristan.
hey, come on. So anyway, then there was a diary of the year of our engagement and the whole thing there, and then the first year of marriage, what that looked like, and I don't have the kids ever read those. Our kids, we have 5 children.
I don't know. We should probably.
Your children are all grown
out.
now, correct?
They're all grown. We have
grandkids.
11 grandkids,
Wow.
and
One on the way.
this month. So
Awesome. Congratulations.
So we'll have 12.
And that's just with 3 of the baby factories open.
Yeah.
2 of our kids haven't had kids yet. They're all married, but the youngest 2 haven't started to increase the arrows in our quiver. Blessed is man with his quiver full. And,
Okay. So that was obviously an important part of your all's start of your marriage, is that you were, equally yoked. You were both had a relationship with the Lord. You started off that way. Awesome.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I remember, you think I'm bad now. I have no idea. I have no idea why she'd put up with my I was very, very self-confident, some would say arrogant, or maybe even a jerk about how I interacted with life. I had my good points, but I didn't use them very often, so they would stay in pristine condition, my good points.
Use your powers for good, Tristan.
Yeah, use my powers for good. But anyway, I remember that I said to her in our thing is, I want you, but I don't need you, because I have my relationship with God. And in her gracious way, she'd always smile. Oh, I understand. But later I found out that was kind of hurtful. Now, just to clarify, we've been married this month 41 years.
Oh, again, congratulations.
Thank you. And it's changed. I desperately need her.
Yeah. Everyone grows up. We mature. We realize.
More than anything else, I need her to forgive me for being who I am and stuff. But the bottom line is, I have better taste than she does. I chose her. She chose me. Just saying.
I tell Cherie this all the time. The best relationships are where each person thinks they got the better end of the deal. And a lot of times you find out that both people think, I got the better end of the deal. She ended up with me, but I got her.
Right.
And, when you both feel that way, it's a good thing. So,
yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. Well, so give me a synopsis of the early years with kids. How did that go? I know eventually at some point you moved out of Washington State. So what happens next?
Oh. Do we want to tell about our moving? In the first 2 years of marriage, we moved 13 times.
13 times
13
in 2
times
years?
In 2 years. No kids.
But still, did you even bother unboxing? That's
Yeah.
Well, we had
roughly,
I don't really remember.
Then we have a
that many
technique
times,
where
but-
we would just get rid of everything we had, and then the next place we go, we get more garage sale stuff because
But we didn't have much stuff anyway.
It was.
you traveled light.
Well, no, people would give us stuff, and so we'd give it away, and we'd move, and then other people give us stuff. Yeah, it's
So the Lord provided, is what
Yeah.
you're saying.
I don't think there's, even right now, if you were to go through a house, how many pieces of furniture have we actually bought?
There's not very many.
I guess I bought that were new.
New, purposefully bought for a reason. Yeah.
No, I don't think we have any that are.
I think when we were first married, we bought an unfinished table.
Yes, unfinished, and I finished it, so we had a dining room table.
Brand new. And we brought a brand new car.
Yeah, those are the only things we've ever bought brand new. Apart from tools, those you have to buy new, and that's very important.
Oh, that's very important to complete that.
Yeah,
that home project. You must buy lots of tools.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, by the way,
every man agrees.
One thing I really appreciate is that if I say I need a tool for this job, she trusts me enough to go, well, if you really need it, you can go ahead and get it, kind of thing. Not that I'm asking permission, but I am. She knows that I will use it and it will provide for us, and it's not just to hang on my wall. My tools get used. So anyway.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we moved a lot.
In the West Coast area, across the country, where did y'all go? Where did the Lord take you?
Washington State is divided by the North Cascade Mountains, and you have the really liberal side of the state, Seattle and that area.
Right.
That's where I grew up in. She grew up on the other side of the state, which is very conservative, much more farmers and stuff. So when we were first married, we were living in the North Seattle area, and we were involved in music, had little bands and that kind of thing. And then we moved to her side of the state. We actually moved to the apple orchard and spent time there. And then was it when we were in the Chelan area that we were involved in a church fellowship that everybody pretty much moved to Scottsdale, Arizona, a church. And so we packed up and we moved to Arizona.
Like the whole church?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was there a calling there? How did that happen? How does the whole church move to Scottsdale, Arizona?
Yeah, I don't even know.
It was not a cult, but it had some of the flavors of that. It was one of the best experiences we had as far as disciplines in the Christian walk.
So was it like a pastoral centered church? The pastor moved and everybody followed, or
Yeah. That was,
okay.
Yeah.
I get what you're saying now.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it was following a person. It wasn't unorthodox by any means, and it was very conservative and very pursuing being a spiritual man or woman, as the case may be. Yeah, and that's where we had our first daughter, was down in Arizona.
Okay.
Yep.
So the beginning of the family was started in Scottsdale, Arizona.
Yep. Yep.
Well, no, actually, the beginning of the family.
We lived in Washington.
The beginning of the family started with us. We are a family, and we invited our children to it. They had to learn quickly that we're not adjusting to them; they adjust to us. So, yeah. What else? We moved.
There's got to be some, amazing God stories in that.
Okay, I got to remember that. This is about interviewing her, because we'll fall into our very well-worn routine of
marital routine.
She sits and smiles and has grace all over here, and I end up talking too much. So
he went through air conditioning school when we were in Scottsdale.
Yeah, in Arizona,
and where he did his electrical learning. Yeah. So as soon as that. The day that he finished, we had the moving truck ready, and we left and went back to Washington.
This probably says something about my head and attitude. Once the decision has been made, once the winds of change blow, and I know this is what God wants us to do, I don't waste time. So I got school. I went to school at night for a year for the electrical and the air conditioning and stuff. And then the night I graduated, drove home, and it was like 11 o'clock p.m. that I hooked up my truck to the back of this big moving thing, and we were gone. I didn't even wait till the next day because that was by then it was like, okay, it's time to go. Let's go.
God had told you what to do, and you followed.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
But we drove through that earthquake in California.
Oh,
I was driving when we went through that earthquake.
I forgot about that.
Now, what year is this? What time frame are we talking about? I'm trying to remember. Because California has so many earthquakes, unfortunately.
88.
Well, Chelsea,
89.
our
She
oldest, was born in 88. So we could have moved 89? Because I think, didn't she have her first birthday down in Arizona?
Yeah, probably.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, so it would have been 1989 is when we moved back. And like Becky was saying, there was an earthquake in California, and
Like literally while you're driving?
oh yeah, and this is
I was driving.
she was driving, I was taking a nap.
I kept seeing signs, high winds and everything, and so I didn't, it was, a little shaky and stuff. And then
So you're not thinking anything about it, right?
No, I'm
I thought it
asleep.
was high winds because the signs kept saying
It was
that,
a full-size moving truck full of our stuff, plus it was towing my full-size pickup. And so this is what she was driving. I was taking a nap at that time. So the next place we stopped,
It was San Francisco.
So let me get this straight. When most people are ducking under desks and hiding in door frames, you guys are moving, actively driving down the highway. That's trusting the Lord. That's trusting the Lord.
She just thought it was high winds. And then we stopped by and we saw on the news this thing about this major earthquake in California. I'm going, oh, that's interesting. What's the earth commotion?
That would explain that.
And then we figured, they told where the epicenter was, and we figured where we would have been at the time.
And you're like,
Oh, we were right. We were as close as you could be to the epicenter on the interstate that you could be. And so she drove right through it, and it's just high winds. So, needless to say, she has entrusted me with so much over these years. Her thing was, you do whatever God has called you to do, but you just make sure that God told you to do it. And she was fine with it. Mm-hmm. And another blessing is she is happy wherever we are. It doesn't matter. She just loves life, loves living. And
I love where we're living.
What a wonderful way to be, yeah.
Yeah. She doesn't hold... I've made so many false starts in different directions just because I'm wired that way to just keep leaning into it. So anyway, she's very gracious that way.
Okay. Well, describe to me the next phase of your all's journey. I mean, you didn't stay on the West Coast forever, so what happens next?
So we lived on Whidbey Island for a while, and a couple of our kids were born when we lived there. And then that's when you were called to the ministry, just before we moved to the island, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Here's an important part. You're called to the ministry.
Well, that was Whidbey Island is the second largest island in the continental United States, and it sits right off the coast of Seattle, north of Seattle, off the coast. And there's actually a naval base. It's pretty big. But yeah, we were living there, and it was got my calling to ministry July 6, 1991, 10:40 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
Very specific.
But actually, Becky, that happened in Everett.
Yeah, that was in Everett.
That was Everett, and that's when we moved to Whidbey Island. So that, and it was on my dad's property. We got a mobile home, single wide mobile home. So, see, I do have Tennessee blood in me. Anyway, I do.
This
I really
is where the
do.
mobile home jokes start, huh?
No, come on. It's our people. My grandma was from Tennessee, so hey. Anyway.
Well, we were looking for a house, and you look at your budget, how much you can afford, and it's like we go to this place that's a shack. So it was hard to find anything, affordable. So we found this mobile home, and his dad said that we could rent a piece of his property, and we put the mobile home on it. So that worked out good for our family.
Yeah,
and
we could afford that. And then I went through night school with Liberty University. Mm-hmm. That was way back when they were sending out the VHS tapes, and you'd watch them, and Becky would watch them with me, and so I went through, the biblical training and.
It was fun.
Yeah, it was fun because I could tell the professor, I'm tired, I'm going to bed, be quiet, I'll get back to you. So
that was the online. Yeah, now they have all the bells and whistles. Yeah, but just the videotapes sent in the mail. It was interesting.
Yeah. So it was 1994 when I got my degree from Liberty, and then it was like, okay, Lord, now what?
So Becky, were you at all surprised? I mean, obviously you're supportive, and you say if you know it's the Lord. Did you think I'm going to be a pastor's wife? Now, did you think that your life would ever take that turn? I mean, did you ever?
No, I didn't marry a pastor.
No, you started off as
no, I didn't marry a pastor.
I did not.
So you didn't see that one coming, but as long as he's getting called, you're supportive. That's awesome.
Yeah, and that's probably one of the hardest things for her is she has a lot of she doesn't think as much of herself as other people do. Other people have her way up, out of camera sight, because I can tell that I'm out of camera sight. She's way up there, but she doesn't think of herself in that way. And to be a pastor's wife, she felt like she failed because she doesn't lead Bible studies.
Yeah, I'm not gifted to lead and stuff.
In fact, for her to be talking, if this were a group Bible study, she would be sitting there most of the time, not saying anything, just going, it's very agreeable, because she doesn't feel that her input would rise to the level of everybody else's input, and so she just enjoys that. So
makes me wonder sometimes, where do we get that notion that a pastor's wife has to be this? I mean, I've went to several different churches and spoke with lots of different pastors, and not every pastor's wife is the same, and they're not all meant to lead women's studies or this or that. So I don't know that it's necessarily a requirement. I don't think every pastor's wife has to do the same thing. So I see nothing wrong with it. I mean, I don't.
You're right. You are absolutely right. But if you impose that upon yourself because you don't, like she did, or not feeling like she
had expectations of herself. Yeah.
But then there's others in the congregation that would have the same expectations of her and expect her.
Oh, true.
Expect her to behave in a certain way, and then our kids, the PKs in that fishbowl of being a pastor's kid, they have a lot to deal with. But even churches, they'll get. When we moved in, we didn't mention it. I did go to New Zealand as an assistant pastor at a Calvary Chapel there.
Okay, when did that happen? Do we need to back up or fast forward? When did that happen?
Well, it'd be a fast forward a bit. That would have been.
So you're called. You're called to the ministry. You go to this island off the coast of Washington State. How do you end up in New Zealand?
Well, from there we'd moved.
We went to Chelan.
We moved back. I was going to start a church in Chelan.
Start something, and we had a Bible study going.
Yeah, I finished up my school. Finished up. I was ordained in Calvary Chapel and headed over there to start a church. There was a fellow there who had a real heart for the Lord, and he was excited that we were coming. So we had a little core group there. Unbeknownst to us, he felt called to start a church, and he was so glad that God had brought us in to help him start a church. And we moved because, oh, God, you have someone there to help us start a church. Yeah. And so it didn't start the way we anticipated. But, it's been a weird journey. It's not the Orthodox journey. From the time I was called in 1991 to being in a place of full-time ministry, it took 20 years.
Yeah.
20 years before I had a season there of doing, and that was in 2004 is when we moved to New Zealand. And again, wonderful, but...
Was that just a calling? Was that someone offered opportunity? How did you end up ministering in New Zealand?
I was pastoring a church, a small country church in the north, near Chelan, in the west, east side of Washington State, up in the Methow Valley, and I'd been doing that for half a dozen years or so, and just really felt like I might be good as an assistant pastor now that I've learned everything the pastor has to put up with. And so I was in a senior pastor's internet group that we could talk to each other, encourage one another, and that's where you, hey, does anybody know of a worship leader, or we need one here? And people would chime in, and someone had mentioned about needing an assistant pastor, and this was the pastor from Auckland, New Zealand. So within 2 months of finding out that there was a need there, we were in New Zealand. Within 2 months,
Lock, stock, barrel move in New Zealand.
Everything. We had some wonderful garage sales.
Becky, I have to know, what is that like? What was your reaction to, hey, there's an opening for an assistant pastor in Auckland, New Zealand. You want to go? How did that conversation go?
She took a deep breath. She took a deep breath.
It actually was, I thought it would be awesome.
Well, yeah, I mean.
Yeah. Being at that church, I mean, it was a struggle to even make ends meet. And
At the church you were leaving, or the one in New Zealand?
The one we were leaving.
Okay.
We had some struggle there and just making ends meet. And we had a home in Chelan that we had like renters in there. And I think they had moved out, and we had tried to sell it, and we eventually sold it. But we were having a hard time even, just making ends meet. And so then we decided we had to sell our house that we were living in.
Yeah.
And then the Lord miraculously sold that. We didn't think it would sell very fast, but He did a bunch of work on it and made it really, really nice. And I think we sold it when the first day the realtors walked through it. We had it sold.
Yeah, when the realtors walked through it, we already had a buyer, so it sold real quick.
Yeah. So
is this confirmation? Do you guys feel that you were meant to go to New Zealand? Is that how?
Well, not yet, but
what happened then? Was we got together to pray about, okay, now that we're released from our mortgages, we had a mortgage in Chelan on a home and a piece of property there, and we had a mortgage on the house we were living in up where I was ministering, and we were released from all of that, and so it's like, we're in a different spot now.
It's
so
like, what are we going to do? Where are we?
I'm still pastoring this little church in Twist, Washington there, and so let's make a punch list. What do we want? And so what was the first thing on the list? It was
so many bedrooms, like at least three bedrooms.
Three bedrooms, because we had 5 kids. We wanted it close to the school.
Close to the school.
And a small yard. We wanted a small, because
there's like certain things we asked for, and that's what we're going to pray for.
Okay.
Right.
And one of
pray
those
specific,
things, Yeah, and one of the things was, and we don't want to pay anything.
Yeah, and
that's very
he
specific.
Says, he put at the end, and it has to not cost anything. And I'm going,
hey, we serve a big God, y'all.
What?
How is he going to do that?
So,
but we prayed.
I said, well, I told her, well, look, we're praying about it, and we're asking the Lord, and so there we go. And 3 days later,
3 days.
So I'm just pausing because it's really fun. 3 days later, we get a call from the Assembly of God pastor, who, a little bit of a side note on it, the community we were in, all the pastors worked together. We would get together, shut down our churches, and have one big service once a year. We had a ministerial association where we would encourage one another, and a few of the churches shared a youth pastor because they couldn't afford their own, and so it was a community effort with the churches, all different flavors and varieties that were Orthodox. I should put that in there. And so the Assembly of God pastor calls, and he said, "So I hear you sold your house. Where are you going to live?" So we don't really know. Well, I got my own house, and the parsonage is empty here. You want to live there? So I said, yeah, well, okay. And so I tell Becky. And so we went and looked at it. It was a mile from the school. It had a small yard. It had 3 bedrooms that we'd asked for. And I'd asked the pastor, well, what do you want? Oh, don't worry, you don't have to pay anything.
Praise the Lord.
So,
We're not using it.
so I tell you what, there was a season where we were very specific with our prayers because this is like, whoa.
Like, I didn't know. It's like, how do you ask for something like that? But it's what we needed, and he gave it to us.
Isn't that amazing?
So, and we lived there for a few years.
Yeah, it's then you got that.
Yeah.
And then so when you said, you know, is this something that we would want to do? I just really felt that it would be wonderful.
We had talked about New Zealand.
Yeah, New Zealand.
Yeah.
So it was there that from there we launched to New Zealand, and
And there was a salary.
there was a salary. Oh, really? Oh, yeah.
There was a salary for the position, so that was nice. But
which, according to U.S. dollars, and this is what made it very difficult when it was substantial, and it was like, I think we can live on that. It turns out,
But when you get there, the cost of living.
cost
New
of living was
Zealand,
very
and you know,
high.
we looked at rent, and it's $500.
$500.
Oh,
yeah.
And then we found out
We got there, and it was $500 a
for
week.
rent. Yeah, $500 a week. Not.
Oh my!
That's how things were. So we were in desperate place in New Zealand because we couldn't really afford to live. And anyway, that was just one of the dynamics.
But when you know, when I don't know, I wanted to do it, he wanted to do it, and we just started having garage sales and sold everything we had. We each had 2 suitcases that we could take, and then I think we shipped, I don't know how many boxes of books, and like
Yeah, my
we took all
library.
our photos out of the photo albums and put them in boxes.
So
And
we had our photos
photos.
Yeah.
So everything else we sold. So every weekend we had a garage sale.
For 3 weeks, and then
Sold everything, and then everything else went to Goodwill or whatever.
And this is a life hack. If you have clutter around your house, one of the best ways to get rid of it is to move.
Yeah.
And I've discovered that.
That's true.
Yeah.
And just get the things that you really need, and then
Yeah.
everything else goes. It was easy. It was easy peasy.
Anyway, that's how we got to New Zealand, and from there we were there not as long as we anticipated, and eventually we came back and ended up in Southern California. We bought a van. We were living in were we living in the van? No, we
had homes that people.
I knew some pastors.
The Lord had worked out
places for us to stay, and but we didn't know what we were going to do.
So hang on. How long were you all in New Zealand?
About a half a year, I think.
Just 6 months or so.
Yeah. It became obvious very quickly that we were going to have to do something different. So.
Yeah. So, okay. So you checked that off the bucket list. It was a fun adventure. Now we're going back to the United States.
It was definitely in the Lord's will.
Yeah, but we went back a year later.
Oh, okay.
But that was for a different thing. We had a family band by that time. My son played
family
drum. Band.
Mm-hmm.
And Becky sings and plays keyboard. I play guitar and stuff. And
I just got a mental picture of the Partridge Family. The big
Oh,
bus.
yeah.
Remember the Partridge Family?
The big bus that would work because
Yes.
we did have a school bus.
I'm showing my
we
age
had a
right
school
now.
bus, too.
Yeah.
Ask your parents' kids. Okay.
Yeah,
exactly.
Happy. Yeah. Yeah. I know.
Okay. So you end up back in California. You're
New Zealand.
okay. So you went to California.
But we did a kind of
they
we
gave
did
us tickets to. Did we fly into L.A.?
I don't know. There's so many details that we have to really mine hard to figure
We
out.
didn't know where we were going.
But we did
like,
go back to
what
New
do
Zealand
you want us
and
to do,
visit,
Lord?
visit and did a family band thing. So we toured around and went to different churches and people we knew, and then we came back, and I've been back to New Zealand again in a South Pacific Rim Pastors Conference.
So it's just through your acquaintances and
Through
the circle
acquaintances
of.
and circle of friends.
Yeah.
And our kids, a few of them have been back to New Zealand because they have lifetime friends.
Yeah.
I was going to ask, how do the kids handle all this? Because you're not just a pastor's wife. You're a mother. You're,
Yeah.
taking care of this family. How was that with that many kids?
I think all of them liked it except for our oldest.
Well,
Maybe.
no, I think she liked it.
She likes it now.
She liked
the experience, but it was hard.
for her at the time. She
leave.
was, she had just gotten her license and she had her own car, and she had to sell her car. And when she got to New Zealand, found out that you can't drive at 16, so she wasn't able to drive.
Maybe 18 or 21 to drive over there?
18. I don't think you're allowed to be at home by yourself if you're under 13 in New Zealand.
Okay.
You have to. Anyway,
That's a whole other podcast.
And she left behind a boyfriend and stuff. So for her, it was the hardest, I think. But the other kids, they adjusted pretty good. And then they have lifetime friends there, especially the girls. I guess that's funny because we only have one boy. I don't know if Tanner has lifetime friends, but he sure has a love for New Zealand. So
Okay.
Yeah, and he got to do sailing for PE.
yeah. That was what. Yeah. They each had their own little sailboat, and they learned how to sail out in the bay, out by the school. So
Yeah,
that was his.
You couldn't be home alone, but you have to learn how to get out there and sail for PE. Okay.
Yeah, that is weird, isn't it? Anyway,
I think they all enjoy us going to New Zealand, except for the having to get rid of everything was pretty hard, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's again with each story there's sub stories and more stories. So
Okay. Well, so you're back in the United States. You visited New Zealand several times. Where did you go from there? Eventually, we're going to get to how you ended up in East Tennessee, but
well, it might be good just to jump on forward to that.
Okay. So Becky, how did your all's Partridge family, husband who's pastoring, end up in East Tennessee?
So after coming back from New Zealand, I think we made a couple trips. I visited his aunt, Kim, lives in Tennessee.
Okay.
Yeah. The first time that I went to her place, he wasn't there.
She was up in Chucky. That's where she lived.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
I was I think visiting Chelsea, and she drove, I think, and we went and visited her. And it looks a lot like New Zealand, except for the ocean.
Yeah.
You know, it's rolling hills and well, there's lots of sheep in New Zealand. But yeah, but I really, really enjoyed it and mentioned to him that I really liked it here.
Yeah.
And then we came once with him
To visit
her, and we started talking about.
The bottom line was my mom had passed in home with the Lord a long time ago. I was probably 35 at the time, I think. And then my dad, he passed 10 years ago, and so I had some inheritance, and thought, well, what are we going to do with the inheritance? And then I remembered that trying to buy something in Washington State would be like 3 or 4 times the price. And I thought, well, I don't have parents I got to take care of here, and my aunt lives in Tennessee, and we really liked it, so we bought a farm. She found we looked at some places when we had visited, and she found a farm. Oh, you got to do this! It's an auction. And so my aunt represented us over the phone. We'd never even seen the place.
She took a video of it, so we'd kind of seen a little bit about what it looked like and what the view was and stuff.
So
so it wasn't sight unseen, but it was bought without physically being there.
Without physically being there, and we were 5 minutes from her and my uncle. Since then, they've moved to North Carolina, but we did move, and
after Elena graduated, we didn't really have
that was our
a
youngest
reason
daughter.
to stay there, so we moved. But we rented it out until that point, and the Lord worked it out that it was empty by the time we moved here, because we talked about just moving here and getting another place. If our renters were still in there, we could just keep renting it out. But it worked out that she wasn't going to be there, so it was available when we came here.
So that was the draw here. We didn't plan on moving here when we bought it. It was just an investment.
Yeah, it was an investment.
We didn't really have any reason to stay where we're at, so okay, Lord, what do you have for us in Tennessee?
Awesome. I hear this story a lot as our church has so many folks who are transplants. We're again, I've said it before, I'll say it again. Glad you're all here. Welcome. What was it about Crossroads Cowboy Church that drew you all in here with us?
It's your interview, Becky. You cover it.
Because you came for a while, and then I think you went into another church for a little while, and then you kind of came back. So, what? The
church that we were going to, I think, was it COVID?
Yeah, COVID shut it down, and so it really.
So we were looking for something else.
I
don't remember how we even came upon it, but we started coming here, and it's just a really great church.
Yeah,
love the worship, and
And that, that's the first time around, and then the Lord had us try to help out another church in the interim, and then we came back. It's not been we haven't been back a year, but maybe a year. I don't know.
I don't even know how long has it been now.
Yeah. Okay. When Kenneth, our Nigerian friend, a pastor who came and shared here, that's when Pastor Tim and I started having dialogues about that. And he just said, come on back. And so he also said, come on back. You could do the podcast. And I go, what? All right. So we prayed about it. And so this time around, it was landing with a specific task or project to really
mind.
lean into, and that's this podcast we're having. So
awesome. Yeah, well, we all
here.
know the Lord works in mysterious ways, and we don't understand the plan. I've often said that about my life and how things are weaved together. But this whole podcast thing has been an idea for a long time. And, we had a gentleman that was going to start it up. He got called to start a church somewhere else, and then you happen to come back, and so it's all worked out the way it was supposed to, and I'm glad you guys are here. So in kind of a wrap-up thing, I'm curious, Becky, what, if you had to pick a highlight or something that you just knew God was in it, give me an example, give me a story of where the Lord just worked it out for you, anywhere in your travels that you just know. Of course, one could be driving through an earthquake without even realizing it, but it's something like that, just something where you knew the Lord had your back and was taking care of you.
I feel like my whole life
Well, that's awesome. That's true.
been like that. Raising 5 kids and pretty much living by faith the whole way, and there's just story after story after story where the Lord showed up and provided, everything we needed.
Yeah.
one of the things we have in common is that we both don't have a real story or testimony of going through a rebellious stage where we rebelled against God. We both, from our youth, have been on a path. It hasn't been perfect, but we've been on a path to follow God. From our youth to now, that's been very consistent.
Mm-hmm.
I'm always amazed and just a little humbled, to be honest with you, when I hear stories like your all's, where you had that spiritual walk from the beginning. You've leaned on the Lord and trusted on the Lord for everything as you go on your way through life. It's easy for folks who are rooted in a place like I am. We're rooted here. We have family, we have friends, we have established things, and you can go through tough times. But when you're on your own, just leaning on the Lord as a family like that, it's a wonderful testimony to your service to the Lord and your faith. And so I love these kind of stories.
Yeah. One of the things that I tell people, and I think it's true, you can correct me, but I think it's true, is that they go, how long have you been married? And whatever the year is, I say, right now it's 41 years. But then I stop and say, happily married. We've enjoyed the journey with its ups and downs. In the hardship, I'm not. She'll verify. I don't chase money. I'm somewhat oblivious of money. And like, oh yeah, we need that, don't we?
To have that to live.
We have to have that to live. But it's just been a pursuit of purpose. Hers right now, she's working for the airline, and she just loves her job.
We didn't even get into what you do for a living.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I work for Piedmont Airlines, which is the regional for American Airlines.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and it's really, really fun. So I'm a gate agent and a ramp agent, so I get to handle the aircraft also, which is really, really fun.
So this is Tri-Cities?
Yeah, Tri-Cities Airport, yeah.
Okay.
And also, she, one of her love languages is gift giving. And I think being able to give people their wonderful trip on a plane or enhance their vacation by being just a person that just enjoys seeing people, giving them courteous service, whatever, and that's part of the the charm.
Yeah.
So
I love to serve them and make it. Sometimes people can have a hard time, delays and things. I just try to help people as much as I can. That's my love language.
It is.
I love people. I want to love God and love people. That's my purpose.
Awesome.
Yeah, and I don't. If she didn't have that,
How did you get so lucky, Tristan?
well, if she didn't have that temperament, I would have been creamed a long time ago. She wouldn't have put up with just how I interact with people in life and the whole thing, but she's at the giving people a second chance before they even realize they need one. And so, yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Becky, for joining us today. Tristan, do you have anything else you'd like to add?
No, if I have Becky, I have everything I need.
Good answer. Good answer. All right. Well, folks, thanks for joining us. We do this every week. Join us next week. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, all those wonderful things. And we thank you for being with us today.
Okay. We can